saucers being stored at that base, at that location. Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, this is where George Bush went in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. This is major decades long underground facility. In fact, I believe they used to do tours of the underground facility off it. I'm not sure if they do that anymore, post 9/11. But this was the underground command center for Strategic Air Command. That's open and well known. Colorado, we have Cheyenne Mountain, of course, the major underground command center for years for NORAD. And as large as that is, and it's massive, of course, there are larger facilities. There's one in Sweden, in which many, many more tons of rock were hollowed out, even then in Cheyenne Mountain. But the Cheyenne Mountain facility is very, very large. I think more interesting these days might be the Denver Federal Center, which is the location probably of the FEMA Underground Command Center. A lot of people ask about the Denver airport and what's below that. There's certainly no shortage of rumors. I do personally believe that there's underground activity there. During the construction of the Denver airport, it is known that work stopped inexplicably for a year. Construction on it stopped. Lame excuses were offered. It really never made sense to people unless there was some other kinds of work that had to be done around the facility. In Richard Sauder's opinion, though, the federal center is actually more important than what's going on at the Denver airport, but who knows? New Mexico, we have Kirtland Air Force Base and the Manzano facility. That's a picture of it there. This has, again, been known to have underground components since the 1940s, although it's never, even today, openly discussed, although I think it's accurately described as an open secret. Miners did a lot of excavation at the Manzano base, one of which Sauder spoke with at length. Told them the miners were blindfolded when transported to and from their work sites, so they couldn't know where they were going. Very compartmented. No one would know the layout. Los Alamos, U.S. Department of Energy National Research Lab. This is a direct quote from Hidden in Plain Sight. Richard Sauder writes, "I had been informed that the underground workspace beneath is even greater in extent than the sprawling surface facility, reaching as much as 1 mile deep." And then you have White Sands. This is a missile testing range, of course. Got a little more on White Sands on the next frame. He writes, "The sum of my research strongly indicates a major underground component at White Sands." Again, he recounts in his book, this is a second-hand account, getting from an ex-Navy person who knew a water well contractor who was hired to do work at White Sands. And according to this person, the contractor was hired to drill 10 or 12-inch holes down to 800 or 1,000 feet. So deep holes, about this wide in diameter. He hit nothing. He thought nothing of it. While drilling, his bit broke through many times. In other words, broke through to air. Cold air rushed up the hole. He was told, "Don't worry about it." So the question, of course, are these air shafts? That might be a reasonable. And when you look at what White Sands looks like, it looks like White Sands. If you go to Google Earth and scroll through the White Sands area, there's not a lot to be seen, except I will point out, I've done my own research on this through Google Earth, and there's 1 square mile, you got to know right where to look, that is blocked off by, it looks like someone took a piece of cloth over the map itself and blocked it off, so you really can't see what is there. And I would encourage you, go to Google Earth and look for it. I've seen it many times. So there's stuff there that we're not supposed to be looking at. Nevada. Well, okay, we all kind of know there's lots of stuff going on in Nevada. This is the area here, I think, of primary interest. From Las Vegas up, you've got Area 51 S4 around there. You go up to Tonopah and out and around. This is all bombing areas, testing areas. It's all under Air Force and Department of Energy, and who knows what other agencies are there, lots of them. Over here we have Los Alamos. It's a couple hundred miles. And then down here you've got China Lake facility, which I'll talk about in a moment. All of these, we're talking about large underground facilities in this whole region, according to his own sources and those in the public literature. China Lake doesn't get as much press as Area 51, but it's a massive Navy research and development reservation with rumors going back forever of underground bases down that way. One China Lake story, well, this is not just a story, this is some of the documentation that Richard dug out through the archives from 1964, indicating the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was considering constructing a huge underground cavity 4,000 feet deep beneath the China Lake facility. Sauder met with a retired member of the Navy who had served there, who told him that the underground portion goes 1 mile deep. And Richard said, well, what's down there? And the guy says, weapons. What kind of weapons? And he says, here's the answer, weapons more powerful than nuclear weapons. What weapons are more powerful than nuclear weapons? Well, I'm not sure. This was during the late 1990s or early 2000s, I believe, this conversation took place. So something down there could be there and could be very, very profound and deep. Let's switch gears a little bit and go beneath the seas. It just occurred to me that this is like Finding Nemo, isn't it? Isn't that cute? So, let's start with some known undersea excavation that we, know all about. The Channel Tunnel, connecting Britain to France. This is a very good cutaway of it. So, this is 31 miles, 23 and a half miles below the sea. Let me rephrase it. 23 miles of sea are above it. Okay, so 23 of the 31 miles are below sea directly. Going down as low as 246 feet below the surface. So not super deep, but it's very long. And of course you can't see it from above. And it's very successful. Works great. That's the Channel Tunnel. That's a long, long way. And you have to ask yourself, there's all kinds of engineering issues getting air down there and all this, but they do it. They're able to do it. You have over in Japan the Seikon Tunnel. Similar type of situation here. It's 33 miles, not as much under a seabed, 14 and a half miles under the of sea above it. Nonetheless, you get the idea. And this goes way deeper than the Channel Tunnel. This is 790 feet below sea level here. Very, very deep. And again, we're talking over 30 miles from one end to the next under the ground. So again, there's no magic here. There's no great mystery. This is all open information that anyone can learn about and you can drive through. So now, earlier in this presentation I was talking about how Richard Sauder argues that it's quite feasible to take an elevator shaft down the leg of an oil rig and get it to an underground base, an underseabed base, excuse me. But the question is, of course, how do you function down there? I mean, how do you have a base permanently below the bed of the sea? I mean, it's a fair question. But of course, one thing you may want to ask yourself is, how does a nuclear submarine stay underwater for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months or more at a time? How do they do it? Well, it's not with oxygen tanks. Okay, they split the oxygen out of the water. It's called electrolysis of water. This is a very simple diagram that I found off of a science website, and it just describes, with the right type of electric charge, you can take the oxygen and the hydrogen, you split them out of the water, and there you go. And so, really, what do you need physically to have a permanent undersea bed base? Well, you need oxygen and some energy. Would perhaps a small 5 megawatt nuclear generator suffice? Maybe. So you'd have energy, oxygen, and then the rest is cake. if you're able to